Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of The Inner Changemaker. Today, we got someone really special. We got Joel Brown in the house from Addicted to Success. And for those of you who don't know who Joel is, he is the founder of addictedtosuccess.com, which is notoriously known as one of the top motivational websites in the world. I mean, his podcast has reached over 1.2 million plays, and his social media following is blowing up everywhere. This guy has interviewed some of the greats, like not just interviews, but we're talking, Deepak Chopra, Tim Ferris, Tony Robbins. We're just talking about Gary Vee and Grant Cardone here. He's being featured. We're catching up a little bit where he's being featured in like movies. He's doing a speaking tour, and it's just insane to see his growth over the last few years. And he's definitely someone that motivated and inspired me to get started in this line of work. So it's a total honor to have you on, Joel Brown. Welcome to the show, brother.
Jay, that was a very energetic introduction. I appreciate you inviting me to serve your audience today. And talking about inspiration, you've inspired me to give myself the mohawk there with my haircut, dude. That's a crazy looking haircut, and I love it. It's very bold. It's very courageous.
Yeah, it's funny. We do some of these events here in Toronto. I don't know if you ever make it around, to Toronto. I know you're traveling everywhere. The world's your oyster. But someone came up to me and they were like, "I think you've trademarked this like hairstyle." I'm like, nah, man. I don't think it's, other people do it too. And then literally the next day on Facebook, someone did a selfie and he said, "I did the Jay Wong." And it was the first photo of someone just doing the same haircut. And I was like, that's pretty hilarious.
It's the Jay Wong Toronto Tomahawk.
Yeah,
we call it the Toronto Tomahawk.
So Joel, man, I so appreciate you coming on. And I mean, if people just like Google, there was like your introduction there was like a couple pages of all the awesome stuff that you've done. But I gotta ask you, because for me, from just like an outsider, just like kind of viewing your own growth, I mean, how does it feel to know that like 5-6 years ago, you just started on the journey? Realistically, probably, everything leading up to that. But now you have over, like, I think it's like 120 million views on the website. Like, you're speaking around the world. Like, how is life like with Joel Brown these days? Like, doesn't that blow you away?
You know what, man? I love that we're starting here in this conversation. Because usually it takes like 10 questions to go to this level of deep. But I'm going to bring it back to what I believe is real. And what's real is sometimes I can be unappreciative. Sometimes I can be ignorant. Sometimes I can be selfish. And what I mean by that is sometimes I can be standing in the middle of Tokyo or the Gold Coast, Surfers Paradise, and forget that 6 years ago I never had that opportunity at that point in time. And I think that that's one of the biggest things is like, I really believe that success is being in a healthy, conscious habit of appreciation as often as possible. That's success. When you can appreciate where you are in your life, that's when you've made it. You know what I mean? Like so many people are like chasing that elusive, mystical thing, thinking when they're going to get there, I'm going to get there, when I'm going to get there. Nah, man, it's the whole freaking journey. It's every single step, and it's appreciating like every moment. And all you need to do is flick on, the news and see these people. Like right now, you see the things that are going on out in Syria and these third world countries, out in Yemen, and there's people that are dying in famines. I mean, really, can we sit back and go, I want more, I need more? When you see what you have around you, and I have to often like pinch myself and really realize that I'm blessed.
Yeah.
I'm totally blessed, man, and I don't take that for granted anymore. I have my moments where I was like ignorant in my journey of success, and I'm at a place now where quite often I have reflection time where, I pray. I'm a Christian man, and I believe that it's good to believe in something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
And whether that's, your God or your vision or whatever it is, right? And so I have all of that. I've got God, my vision. I have amazing people that I keep around me that inspire me and push me to move forward and that expect more of me than I've ever expected of myself. And so it's really important to have that around you. And I think that when I look back at 6.5 years ago, I was the little white belt dude in the dojo that was like so keen to get started, to kick everyone's ass, and then realize halfway through the program that it's not about that. And so like whether I'm at black belt or purple or whatever you continue on and get the double dans and the triple dans or whatever else you get as you make your way up. I think more and more that you do that, you realize you don't want to fight, and it's about the discipline. It's about being in it. It's about having the opportunity to be in the dojo and being a part of something bigger than yourself. And so that would be my advice, and my truth and the realness around it is that like, dude, all I am is appreciative of the journey that I've been on, and I'm going to continue to unfold. And I think it's beautiful, and everything is perfect.
And I love that you put that together like that, because I think for a lot of people, whether they consider themselves an overachiever or not, they get into that, right? They get into the whole, yes, I did this, but yeah, that wasn't quite at this level. Yes, I did this, but or every time they achieve something, it's not necessarily like the same, feeling as when they did their first, 6 figures or their first million. Right. So how do you, have you ever caught yourself like at a moment where you're just like so unappreciative or so ungrateful because you were like just achieving so much? Yeah.
Dude, I can take you back to I could pinpoint a moment in my life, which is literally only about a year ago, maybe even less than that.
Okay.
So I had left the US. My visa had run out, and I left the US. I went to Panama in South America. Then I went to Colombia, and I was walking around on the street in Medellin, Colombia. Okay. I had one of these kind of like these like Jamba Juice, like a juice smoothie, like protein shake thing. I'm walking along, and there was a guy, and I think that day I was like some things were going on in my business that was challenging me a little bit, and I was waiting for something to come through, and I was having technical problems and couldn't get in touch with people. It was just one of those days where like one thing after another was like testing me, right? I remember walking along, and there was a homeless guy that came up to me, and like I'm very empathetic 99.9% of the time, but this homeless guy walked up to me, and he's like, hey, and he's trying to talk to me, and I was like on the phone, and I like got off the call, and I was like kind of startled. It was just like, like I wasn't really present with him, and he was trying to talk to me. He had broken English, and I caught myself reacting a bit and feeling defensive, but then I like started to let my guard down, and then he was asking me, where are you from? He just wanted to connect, man. He wanted to have a conversation, and I said, he was speaking in Spanish first, and I couldn't really speak Spanish. I was trying to learn a little bit of it, and I was saying a few things in Spanish, and he ended up realizing that I was English, speaking English, and he's like, where are you from? Where are you from? And I said, Australia. He said, oh, Australia. He just like lit up. He's, oh, Australia. Like he'd never met someone from Australia before, and he was trying to talk to me about it and asking me about Australia. And he said, you're from Australia. Now you're here. You're here. And I was like, what's this guy going on about? He kept saying, he goes, you're here. You're here. And I was like, man, this guy's crazy. And he's like coming up asking me for money. I gave him money, and he's like, you're here. And I was like, damn, man. Like, I didn't know what he meant. Maybe he was kind of like a little bit crazy. But I was like, dude, that's a reminder. He was like, you are here. And I remember sitting in an office job. It would have been about 9 years ago, because I worked in a sales job, and then I worked in the music industry, and I left and went back to sales, and then I, started Addicted to Success and crushed it in that. Okay. And I remember sitting in my first sales job, selling telecommunication, internet solutions, right? I remember sitting, and the cubicle next to me was my friend's little area on his desk, and he had up on the wall, he had like a bucket list, and to travel and go to South America and to go to all these places. And I remember sitting there while I was in between a call, looking at it, going, man, I really need to get my list together. Like that'd be cool. Like just, it felt like traveling the world and experiencing life was like so far away.
Right.
It felt like something you do when you're much, much older.
Sure.
And when you have like, you're all really set up. That was just my mindset at the time. But then I like in that moment when he was like, you're here, my mind went right back, man. It was so vivid. It was so clear at that point in time. I was like, boom, I could see everything. I could like, it was like photographic memory of boom, that seeing that on the wall and saying South America and the world and blah, blah, and me going, that's what I want. And then that was when I was like, whoa. And I dropped into that and I was like, yes, I'm here. And I owned it. And I like, dude, I had this like chill down my body and this moment of like feeling emotional and teary. And I gave him more money and I was talking with him for a bit. And then I bought him something at the shop. And then I walked away from that just feeling like the rest of my day felt amazing, man. And that was that moment of gratitude, blessings, and appreciation that I was in. And I was like, man, I'm going to practice this more often. And so that's, you know, I do practice it often, man. And I hope to remind other people about it too. You know, I think that's what you got to do. You got to lead by example and share these kind of stories.
Yeah, and I think it's amazing. Even though you're literally on the other side of the world, I'm here and you know, I'm stuck here doing the spring of Canada, even though it rains, you know, and snows all the time.
Make the most
here.
of that spring, man.
Right, but exactly. But I love that you remind us of that, right? Of trying to, you know, sometimes we get caught in the whole goals, you know, and having greater ambition in our vision, right? And what we do is, I think a lot of times we live in the future almost, you know, or we try to say, okay, when I'm there, when I'm finally set up, when I have the millions and billions, I can go to South America. You know what I mean? And it's just a great reminder of saying, you know, you're here now, right? You are where you are now. And so I love that technology allows us to connect and for you to share that story, because I think it's quite powerful.
Yeah. I want to drop in on that real quick. Dude,
yeah.
Off that, to stem from it, I really believe that we make life way harder than it has to be. Like, honestly, dude, the things I've learned along the way, the sequences, the systems, the setups, the strategies, the like sitting down and getting clear and writing things out and like committing and like solidifying new habits and replacing all those things, man, are like, they're actually, success is actually easy. It's easy, but we make it hard. We make it sound like it's something that is just like mission impossible and it's like guarded by Fort Knox and it's just going to take forever to get there. And it's just so not true.
Yeah. Well, the thing about that, Joel, is that if we make it too easy, it's almost like no one believes you, right? Like people don't want to believe it's easy. And I remember one time it was I was interviewing, you probably know Philip McKernan. And I was interviewing him and I said, you know, I said something along the lines like, is it all mindset or is it something like I said, kind of like a general blanket statement, but I was like, is it really as simple as X? I don't remember exactly what I said. And he's like, yes, but Jay, for the purpose of this, let's complicate it for the next like 40 minutes so people feel like they got the great value from it, right? And I'm like, well, isn't that hilarious, right? Because, you know, on point. You know, the money's another great topic, right? Which comes up so much, whether you have a business or don't have a business, or you're trying to get money, you're trying to have freedom, all this stuff. And people, you know, the conversation of money is always, how's your relationship with money, right? Most people will think my relationship with money is hard because there's a lack of money, right? And this was in a recent conversation of mine. I don't know, I just brought this up. But if money is just paper, and yet there's so much drama around it, you know, and money is a form of value, and yet there's so much this drama around it. But if we notice that we make things easier, things that are easy, you know, they come easy because it's what we believe.
Right. Yeah, you know, I think you need to make a certain amount of money to realize that it's not actually about that. Like, I feel like, and I never want to say that I'm there, because when I've thought that I'm there, I learn a little bit more and go, oh no, I wasn't there. Now I'm there. And then I learn a little bit more and I go, oh no, I wasn't quite there. I thought I was, but I'm like, now I think I'm there. One of the things that came up for me recently was, so right now I have my Australian and New Zealand tour, right? I've got my Millions Online 2-day workshop that I'm traveling around Australia and New Zealand to deliver, right? And no matter how much money my business brings in and my coaching and the other speaking and the programs and all the other stuff, I still made it a little bit about, oh, I hope I have ticket sales. But then I had to pull myself, and this was only today. I'm going to be honest with you. It was only today. I had to pull myself back from that and go, Joel, what's the bigger picture? Where's your vision in this? And the vision in this is, honestly, I really, truly, what excites me more than just going, oh, okay, I made this much money from it, is like I want as many people as I can to be in that room so I can serve as many people, because I really, truly, wholeheartedly believe from the bottom of my heart, my grandma's grave, I believe that I have a value that people need to have and instill within themselves and in their businesses and their brands if they want to impact lives. So I really wholeheartedly believe that. And when I went back to that, it was like, oh, it made the whole money thing disappear. It's like, I want people in the room because I want people in the room. It's like we could even halve the tickets if we want, but then it loses its own value from the other person's perspective.
Sure.
So that's another thing you learn as well. And if there's anyone listening now that's like a speaker or a coach or a businessman or businesswoman, or like you got a product or a service, whatever it is, that whole conversation around how much should I charge, that's another thing you get to learn as well. Because I had to learn that. I went out and shortchanged. Okay, Addicted to Success for about 3.5 to 4 years. I was delivering free content. I had people telling me, you should be charging for this. But I got so used to not that I couldn't imagine what it would be like to do that. And the moment I started, people were like, when they asked me to speak at events, oh, how much do you charge? I'm like, oh, this much. And they'd be like, oh, really? And I thought that was big, and I was like, I've got like 3 streams of income. I'm good. It's like, Joel, you could have 10, and then you could, even if you wanted to like turn those 7 into contribution and giving back incomes, streams from that income, you could do that too. And I was like, whoa. So then I realized at the end of the day, all we are is currency conductors, right? The money comes in, we conduct it and tell it where to go. I interviewed Grant Cardone. You know Grant too. Grant's a beast. I interviewed him and talked to him about money. He said to me, Joel, money is my slave. He said, I get to build little pyramids and I get it to go to work. And he said, he goes, this is so smart, man. And it shifted. I'm really big into shifting perspectives, because we can hold things for so long until our perspective shifts. Sure. Then we see the world in a very different way. Yeah. Money is debt. And you're like, people would argue with me on that, but really, who owns the money at the end of the day? We could go like super like conspiracy theory and everything into it and be like Rothschilds, and they like write on a piece of paper that it's this much, and then the bank charges you interest, and then you've got ATM fees where like you've got to pay the bank to take out your own money. And so there's all this like crap and stuff that goes on around money, and it's true. Like it totally is. It's a system that it's like slavery never went away. It just evolved. So we're slaves into it, and we get to choose whether we want to be handcuffed and, tied in chains with this, or if we're actually going to make it work for us. We get to choose that. And so I choose to not be ruled by the money. I choose to empower my decisions and empower my options with it. It's always going to be there. It has to be there. That's just the system and the world we live in. But it's like, let's get smarter about money now. Let's utilize money in a way that we can that's most effective. Like educate yourself on money, because they don't teach you jack in school.
No.
Honestly.
And it's so powerful. Like, for people that are just watching this or listening to this, like, be sure to follow this guy, Joel Brown. He has his IamJoelBrown.com. And if you just look up Addicted to Success, I mean, you got to figure out how to get a hold of him and like socially stalk his stuff, because it's really powerful, and some of these stories are so, there's so much we can go into it. And, I'll say this, the one thing I love about you, Joel, is that I feel like you really resonate with a lot of maybe just my audience, but I think a lot of people that listen to podcasts, they're obviously, they're smarter individuals. They want to deep dive on a certain topic, but I feel like you always, because you probably get asked all the time, like, who are you, like 7 years ago, or who are you like a decade ago, but you always bring up those stories of you working in that office. I feel like you resonate so much, right, with the people that they're like on the verge of doing exactly what they want to do, or they think they want to do, right? And they want to take that leap, but they're a little scared, they're a little stuck, right? Do you remember being in that? Like, I know, like, now it's like the movies, the stages, and the bright lights, but like, do you remember like being at that stage? Like, what helped you when you were there?
Oh man, I'm gonna tell you this. No matter how successful or I get, or however many achievements I get, I'm constantly reminded day by day, week by week, month by month of where I'm from. Like my Australian family, my parents, my family, my brother, they remind me every day that I'm Joel Brown, and that they can quickly humble me. And I think, like I said, when you make it something bigger than, like, when, you've got to have something you believe in that's bigger than yourself. And so for that in itself, just like, I'm here as a servant, man. I'm here to serve. I'm here to show up in the best way possible. And one of the best ways I can do that is by really relating to people that were in the place that I was in 6.5 years ago, and then empowering them from the place that I'm in now by telling them that I get where they're at, that I've been there before. And so there's a lot of things I went through, dude. I went through, I was working in the music industry, and we were around people like Ferris and Usher and Kelly Rowland and Young Jeezy and all these like incredible, artists and that. And I got to the point where I was not happy anymore. I felt unfulfilled. I was like, this isn't it. And people thought I was crazy. I had friends and family and people going, you're crazy. Why are you leaving the music industry? Why are you leaving this awesome opportunity? And I was like, this isn't it. Like, there's something more here. After that, Addicted to Success was birthed. So I made a good decision, but I also know that there's so many people where they get stuck in their one thing. And they feel like, oh, well, I've only got one passion. And that's such a common misconception in life. It's like, no, you have multiple passions. You can continue to have multiple purposes that show up in your life. I'm not attached to the idea of me having to be a speaker and a self-development content creator for the rest of my life. As far as I can see, I'd love to say that. And, if that is my journey and my purpose and my mission and my path, then so be it. And I'm ready to commit and ready to wife this thing, man, and go in it for life if that's what I need to do. You see people like Brian Tracy and like even the Jim Rohns and the Wayne Dyers and Zig Ziglars, those guys like were in it. They were ready to do it for life. And, they, bless their souls, man, they passed away, RIP. They passed the torch down to the next generation. I believe people like Preston Miles, Alexi Panos, Peter Kelly, myself, a number of other incredible people around me, man, are the next generation to carry that. You're the next generation. The listeners that are on this right now are either the generation, the millennials, or Generation Z. Right? So we get to now forge an even stronger path. The Michael Bernard Beckwiths, the Tony Robbins, these other incredible people. You got like Gabby Bernstein, Marie Forleo, and a lot of these game changers that are out there now. They've been laying bricks. We're walking on the path that they laid before us. We just now get to build even more off that. So like that in itself, man, to me just feels so empowering. It's so awesome that we get to stand on the shoulders of giants and get to play this game at an even higher level. Why would you not get excited about that, man? Why would you not get pumped? Like, I gotta take my shirt off, dude.
I was gonna say, like, I'm feeling inspired. I was like, let's do a goosebump test. I was like, Joel was getting in this. I was like, we need a heat check.
Honestly, man, like, I wish there was some form of technology where you could just like shrink and jump into my brain and just like see what goes on in there, and to be in the space of like how I see you and how I see others. When I have people that come up to me and are like, hey Joe, I'm just starting out, I'm like, awesome. You know how much that excites me? I'm like, man, we're going to get to casting your vision. Let's get into your vision. It excites me so much, because that's the opportunity that Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street, right, gave me 6.5 years ago when I was sitting in that sales boardroom and he was coaching us in a workshop, and he got in my face and was like, what are you good at? What do you love? What solution are you bringing to the world? What's your purpose? Cast your 10-year vision. Write in as much detail. How are you going to feel when you get there? What do you believe about yourself? What state will you be in? And all this stuff. And I was just like, all right, I'll write that down. And that was the day that I birthed Addicted to Success. Before all that, I read books, but I never wrote anything down because I had this meaning attached to it that I hated high school. I'm a high school dropout, man. I dropped out year 11. I got bullied. I got bashed. I hated high school. I couldn't agree with the system, and I left.
Sure.
It wasn't for me. Might be for other people, but it wasn't for me, man. And I decided to place bets on myself that day, and I decided that I'm bigger than the lower level thinking that I had carried for so long, that I'm a failure and that I'm not good enough and failure and mistakes are bad. And I let go of that, and I decided that what Jordan Belfort told me is, you're not the past, you're the lessons and the resources you glean from it. And that was the day I wrote myself my own damn permission slip. And it got exciting after that, man. It was my 10-year vision. I've been living in it ever since. And every year I push it out, I push it out, I push it. I keep pushing it, man. That 10th year I casted 6.5 years ago, I'm already living in it 6.5 years in. That's the power of a vision. It disciplines you, it chooses your friends for you, it tells you what to say yes and no to. It excites you, right? That's a vision.
Joel, I mean, it's massively inspiring. I mean, it's insane to just see not just the energy, but the passion you have for what it is that you do. It's
not the coffee either, dude. This is decaf. This isn't even caffeine right now, man.
Yeah, like you don't need the coffee, man. You don't need the coffee. Like just show up as you, right? And I love that, because I know you share that 10-year vision a lot, and I'm always, for a lot of people, they go, okay, I got to put pen to paper. I got to start writing stuff down. But how did you allow yourself to go there? Right? Like, was it just this is the day I'm just going to stop it. Like, I'm going to live a new life here? Because a lot of people that, they kind of, people get excited over New Year's resolutions. They get excited like, okay, this quarter, we're going to do this. Right? Like, what do you think it was in that moment? Maybe it was just Jordan, they were pushing you to do it. But what do you think of that moment where you just drew the line kind of in the sand, and you said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to step into this identity, and I'm going to this is going to be my expectation now. Does that make sense?
You know what, man? I didn't draw the line in the sand. I drew it in the cement. It was not even just the I'm interested. It's I'm committed. And I think that when you make that commitment, because I think most people don't, man. They like I said, they play small. They don't commit. They go, I'm interested in this. This sounds like it could be fun. I'm like, no, I'm committed. And it doesn't matter what work I need to do to get there, because that's the thing about the vision is you've got to make it exciting, man. And the cool thing about it is you get to craft it in whatever way possible, in whatever way you want, that lights you up, right? So you got to start with big thinking. You got to really have to start with big thinking. The vision that I casted 6.5 years ago for my 10-year vision, I started with my 10th year and I casted big, big. What I thought was big at the time. If I was to cast that same vision now, that would only be a 1-year vision or a no-year vision, because my mindset at that time thought that was really big. Now what I'm living in is that's kind of it's baby. It's a baby money. It's baby game. It's not big boy game. It's not where I want to go now. You know what I mean? But it was relative to the time that I was in. So just know, when you write that 10th year and then you reverse engineer it, what do you have to do in the 9th to get to the 10th? What do you have to do in the 8th to get to the 9th, the 7th to the 8th, and so on, right? When you cast that, write it out, man. It gets so excited. What are you going to feel when you get there? How's it going to feel when you're there? What material things are you going to have? What experiences are you going to experience? What habits are you going to have in play? What beliefs would you have to have about yourself to be in that place? What skills would you have to acquire? All these things. What are your values there? Make sure all the little goals inside that vision. The goals are just a stepping stone. The vision's the big thing. I always say the vision is like the tarmac and the landing strip for your dreams, right? For your destiny. And so that's really what a vision is at the end of the day. So we get to keep casting it, man. We get to keep casting it. When you look at the king of the sky, who's that? That's the eagle. They got the vision, man. They got the vision. And then the king of the jungle is the lion. They've got the courage, right? So you got to have the vision and the courage to fulfill that destiny that you have set out to live in.
Powerful. You guys need to be following Joel Brown. And his stuff is addicted to success, because you can tell he is addicted to his own success and yours as well. So Joel, it's amazing that you're living this, obviously this awesome, amazing life, and you've had this in your vision, and it's coming true for you. And I know it's just talking to you, I could just sense that sometimes you're in disbelief of it. And coming from where you came from, almost, when you were at the job, for people that are starting, let's say now, right, 2017, And, you know, technology has grown so much since you started doing interviews and your blog and the podcast and everything. Like, maybe not tactically, because I know, you know, there's a whole kind of can of worms that you could jump into when you do that. I know you coach a lot of people, especially with your like circle of influence and helping them build their, you know, businesses, their brands, and become, you know, influencers in every different niche. What are some of the, like, I guess, fundamental, like values or frameworks that these people can keep in mind, especially if they're starting their journey now, or they just started last year, or they're looking to start this year?
Right. Yeah, the foundationals would really be this. You know, I've interviewed hundreds of successful people. You've mentioned a number of them already. And over the years, what I do is when I ask them questions, I listen very closely to what's the underlying thing that operates under that. Why does that person implement that? How did they get that result if they did this, right? So what I find is there's 4 key areas. I call them the 4 dimensions of success that I find all of these successful people operate in, either consciously or unconsciously. It happens all the time. They've mastered these areas very well.
Okay.
And what they are is values, right? So they've found their values. They're operating within their values as often as possible. Okay. And it might be their top 3 values, or the top 4, or the top 5. You know, somebody like Grant Cardone, it's like business, wealth, you know, speaking, teaching, writing, like they're all his like top values. Mine is business, self-development, contribution. That's why when you look at Addicted to Success, the business revolves around those values. It's like, that's why I'm so empowered. I'm lit from within. I'm inspired. I'm not looking for that external motivation to fire me up, because it's internal. I'm in spirit, right? So that's the key there first and foremost. Your values are your compass for life.
Love that.
Your values are your compass for life.
Values.
Right? You're the plane. Your vision is the tarmac for takeoff.
Yeah. And
your landing strip for destiny, right? So like, you still need to be able to know where your compass is and how to direct while you're flying through your years, right? Just as an analogy. And then you've got beliefs, right? So beliefs, what do you have to believe about yourselves? Now, your values and your beliefs drive every decision that you make. Okay. So what you'd have to believe about yourself is empowering things. 3 of the most common limiting beliefs is, I'm not good enough, failure and mistakes are bad, and I don't have enough of. Right? They're like, oh, got to have more, not feeling like you have enough of it. Yeah. Of a specific thing. Yeah. Right? So it's really important to really like empower yourself and stack those beliefs. We have like, the cards are so heavily stacked in our favor. It's ridiculous. People don't understand, especially if you're in like a first world, like the Western world, especially, like there are no excuses. Like if you're like just surviving and not like thriving right now, come on, like the cards are so heavily stacked in your favor. So what can you believe about yourself, right? What are the things you have achieved in your life? Write them down. Write down a list and write down 100 things that you've achieved. It could be a certificate in grade 1. It could be a trophy in basketball or you know, tennis, whatever, man, whatever. You can write a whole list of things that you did, something really awesome that you did for your partner or you know, what your mom's proud about, whatever. So write all those things out and stack those limiting beliefs with what I like to call hell yes, right? Your empowering beliefs, they're your hell yes, right? That you know for sure. Then you've got your habits, and that's the energy bolts of action for success every day. And, you know, there's some cornerstone habits like self-development, fitness, eating healthy, getting good sleep. Like they're like cornerstone. They affect a lot of your life. And then you've got the smaller habits like your to-do lists. And then you've got things of like, what's another one would be maybe like stretching, and like they're kind of like sub branches of the bigger kind of habits, right? Sure. So it's really important to have your key cornerstone habits in play. And then the skills, what kind of skills would you have to acquire in your life? And if you don't get them yourself, because it may be a weakness, but you know that you've got everything else covered, hire someone that can fulfill that, and you operate out of your strengths. Right. So that's really what's important. The bottom line of it all, man, is this. Like I spent a good 3.5 hours hanging out with Dr. John Demartini a couple weeks ago. And this guy is like, he's read over 30,000 books in his lifetime. And he's like a super genius, travels the world. He's delivers like 350 something speeches around the world, made hundreds of millions of dollars. This guy's awesome, man. Contributes and big heart and everything. And I asked him, because he studied like hundreds of disciplines, your physiology and theology and astrology and biology and psychology and all that, all the ologies, right?
Ologies, yeah.
All the ologies, right? And I asked him, John, what is the most important ologies out of all the ologies that you've studied? And he laughed and he said, the most important one out of all of them, out of the hundreds of disciplines I've studied, he said, would have to be axiology. Axiology is the study of values. That's it. And he said to me, it's funny, he said it's the smallest book out of all the other ologies, and he said it's the most important one. And I've seen him in a room, and people could throw him 20, 30, 40 questions. He could relate everything back to the values as the core and answer their question. No matter how big, wide their questions are, somewhere along the lines is values, because it drives you in every decision you make. Okay, so that brings us back to what's the most important thing that I would say on top of everything else that I've said.
Yeah.
Every day we get to choose where we live. Emotionally, we get to choose how we live our life. Life is what you make it. I have people that tell me, Joel, you're lucky. I laugh at that. And I'm like, that's not, how can you even say that? Like, I don't even know what luck really means, man, especially when you work. Like, I worked for this. I deserve this just as much as you deserve to excel in whatever your field and your purpose and your gift is.
Yeah.
But you got to get to work. I said before, success is easy. It becomes easier when you start mapping things out. You still need to do the work though. You can't live in a fantasy of, it's going to be like this walk in the park. No. To be amazing, for something to be transformational, it needs to catch you by surprise. So somewhere along the line, there's going to be challenges. And entrepreneurs are born out of challenges. 9-to-5ers and people, not even 9-to-5ers, just your like people that want to play average are people that are born out of support. They go and they work for a day job to be supported financially by somebody and rewarded by support. When you're an entrepreneur, you're a leader, you go first, you have the balls, you have the courage, you're a freaking lion, and you get up and you take hits and you hit it on the chest, and you've got to go first, man. You take that risk every day that you get out of bed to run that business, to step up on stage, to lead in front, and to be the person carrying the weight of the team sometimes. But you get rewarded so handsomely when you do that. When you don't give up on that, you get rewarded handsomely, right? And that's because we are born out of challenges as entrepreneurs. We get supported not only financially by other people when you're an entrepreneur and you do really well and you go through the challenges, you also get admired. People admire people that have the courage to follow their dreams. So you want to be admired. All these people are trying to get validation on social media by all these other ways and looking all good. Why don't you be admired for doing something that's really hard?
Yeah.
Because that's the truth.
Yeah. And I love that you've given us so much, like just so much. And I like to think that, the 4 different dimensions that you mentioned, I mean, if you can nail down those parts, I mean, that's a lot of, this is, the guy who created literally one of the top motivational websites in the world. Like, you don't need the website. You don't need not trying to not get your traffic down, Joel, but if you're applying some of those dimensions,
yes.
You know what I mean? It's absolutely amazing. And you made me think of, the story of how diamonds gets created, which I'm sure you've heard, right? Diamonds is forged out of difficult and immense pressure, right? And it needs to get cut so many different times. And if you look at a diamond, you can't actually, it's, the way you tell if it's real or fake, it's can you cut a diamond? You can't cut it, right? Because it's a diamond. It took so much heat and pressure to actually create the diamond. And for, I think, a lot of us listening and watching, we want, we see the success, we see, the bright lights, and maybe, different people want different things in their lives, but people want the success. But I love the reminder that it all comes back to, how much you're going to put in. And when you're going through those tough times that's part of that process. to make
Right.
you indestructible, to make you, the diamond and the leader. And I love that. I love that you pointed that out. Come on, you've heard that. I know you've heard that, Joe.
I've heard diamonds are cut under pressure.
Yeah.
But you explained it on even like a deeper level, and I love that, man. That's such a great way to share it. I'm happy that you shared that on the podcast. I want to add in on this.
Yeah.
And I think this is really important. The more I commit myself to mastery in this game, the more I find that what I thought I knew, there's even more. And then when I get to the even more, I find out I didn't really know much at all, and I'm still learning, right?
Yeah.
So it's committing to being forever a student, right? What I would say is this. I'd say get smart. Be a new kind of smart. And the new kind of smart is understand the world that you live in, like really study it. Like we were talking about before with like how money is made and where it comes from. Like 3 things that I really care about when I look into like anything: politics, religion, systems.
Sure.
I look at these 3 things. The underlying is origin. Where did it originally come from? Meaning. What's the meaning behind it? And then destiny. Where's it going? Right? And really going in on that and just like understanding that, because when you shift your perspective and see the world in 4D, not 3D, but like 4D on another dimension where you like, and I'm not trying to be all trippy and all weird, like fluffy trick stuff, but I really mean like actually understanding how systems work, why certain things are in place, what's really going on behind the scenes. People get all crazy about Clinton and Trump, but it's like, know what's going on behind that. You know enough to know that, like, all right, what are you putting fear into when you understand what we're really here for and what's really happening in the world? Our problem is this. We quite often are very poor observers in life. If we actually sat back and just observed for a bit, we'd see the bigger picture. Most people are so in it emotionally and so in the fear and so in the that they feel like they turn into the victim. So it's good to sit back and really take a good observation of it from time to time, then go back in the field, go back in the ring and make it happen. And I just feel like there's things that I've learned over time about money and belief systems and things like that, where like I used to stress so much about things. Now it's like, meh, some of these things are so man-made and just created to like suppress us in certain ways. So like, why? So like be a new kind of smart. I'm going to share this here with you real quick before we wrap up.
Yeah.
This is a little story. So there was this Indian guy, right? And he hopped on this plane and he's sitting in business class, and right there next to him was Albert Einstein. Okay. And Albert Einstein was sitting there, and he looked over at him. He said, "Oh, you're Albert Einstein." And Albert Einstein said, "Yes, I am." And the Indian guy goes, "Albert, would you like to play a game?" Because he was thinking of ways that he could continue conversation, because he felt like Albert might not want to speak with him. He said,
"Sure,
I'm going to play a game." And Albert's like, "What's the game?" And he said, "You're really intelligent. You're a pretty smart guy. I think this would be a great game for us to play." He said, "How about if I ask you a question and you can't answer it, then you pay me $50. And if you ask me a question and I can't answer it, then I pay you $50, right?"
Okay.
And he's like, Einstein's like, "Don't be ridiculous. You know who I am. I know quite a lot." So he said, how about this? If I get it wrong, I'll pay you 500. I'll 10 times that, because I do a lot of research. I'm quite intelligent. And the guy said, "Great deal." So anyway, he goes, "Well, because I've decided to offer more, I'll go first." So he said, ask the Indian guy, how far away are we in feet away from Earth, from the moon? And so the Indian guy goes, thinking to himself, he's like, "Phew." And he's like, "Well, like there's the internet out nowadays. I could probably look it up, and we live in a world where we have technology, we could measure." He's like, "You know what? To be honest, I don't really know. I'm sorry, here's $50. So Albert Einstein says, "Okay, no problem." So he got it, right? And then the Indian guy goes next, and he goes, "All right, Albert, what has 3 legs, goes up a hill, and comes down with 4 legs?" And Albert Einstein's sitting there thinking. He's thinking of all the algorithms and the hacks and the things that he's learned. And he's sitting there for quite a while with his hand on his chin going, "Oh." And he says, "You know what? I just can't think of what it would be." He said, here's $500. So he gives the Indian guy $500. As the Indian guy takes the $500, and Albert Einstein says, out of interest, what goes up a hill with 3 legs and comes down with 4? And the Indian guy reaches into his pocket and pulls $50 out. He didn't even know the answer. He just made that up, right, to trick Albert Einstein. And Albert Einstein said, you're a new kind of smart. And that's how we need to be more so in the world. Like, we don't need to know all the entire, like, the algorithms and all the other stuff, but like,
right.
Let's be like a little bit more witty with like how we're playing this business game, how we're connecting, how we're, coming up with business ideas and operating, and like just really like look at the picture and see how you can innovate and come up with something new and edgy. You don't always have to keep running on the same tracks. So,
and I love that story. I've never heard it before. And if you want to get smarter, by the way, you got to go check out Joel Brown. I mean, I mentioned it a couple times, addictedtosuccess.com and iamjoelbrown.com. Joel, I got last couple questions for you. I mean, you've shared so much value with us already. And if you're up for it, I mean, these 2 questions, they're powerful questions, but they really have to do with you. And so the first one is, the show itself, the theme is people that are choosing legacy over currency. When you look back at all the stuff you've been able to do, and we've talked about so many of the things, from your speaking tour that's coming up, to the movies that you're in, to the amazing impact that you're creating with your students and people that are in your circle of influence, how do you see this as part of your own legacy? Or has this been something that's been atop of your mind?
Right. I don't believe legacy is just one thing that happens after you leave. I feel like legacy is what you build up every day. And I feel like it's like I've heard that quite often. I think Gary Vaynerchuk likes to say that as well. Like, legacy is currency. Yeah. And so I'd flip it around and go, what's currency to you? Because like and then this goes back to being a new kind of smart, is like, what are we measuring now? I would like to think that if I didn't so much just like impact directly 1 million people, but if I impacted 10 and they went out and impacted 1 billion, to me that measures way further than I ever expected, right? So like I would really like think about what that means, the currency and legacy and impact. I get people all the time when I coach, they're like, I want abundance. I'm like, cool. What does that mean to you? What does that look like? They say, I want impact. Okay, what does that look like? Because my form of impact is very different to yours. Same thing with success. I want success, right?
Sure.
So to answer that question thoroughly, I'd say that I believe each and every day what we do with our moves, how we show up, operating from a place of heart, right? I feel like what really lies underneath our heart is our true character. And I strive to have a character of loyalty and compassion and empathy and integrity, all these like real core things that I think a lot of the world is forgetting nowadays. And I think that in itself, if you can lead by that example and inspire others through a ripple effect to show up in the same way, that's how we change the game, man. That's how we change the world.
It's so beautiful. Yeah, no, and I absolutely love that. And I was thinking, just actually, as we're going through this, I mean, this interview has been so powerful for the people that are watching, they're listening. I mean, I've taken down so many notes, from the 4 dimensions to how to actually get really smart. So out of curiosity, with your speaking tour, I know it's coming into Australia. Are you going to be diving into some of these topics, or what's kind of like the details with some of the topics that are going to be covered in some of your talks?
For sure, yeah. To break it down, it's really mindset, mechanics, and heart. Okay, so the mindset of like what you need to really understand, to like cast your vision, to live in your values, to narrow down on your purpose, to come from a place of that personal power, right? That ultimate power that's there, that's inspired from within in spirit. To get real clear, to get clarity, to have that accountability, to really know what to focus on. All of these things are really important, and that's the mindset. The mechanics is really like the top 5% of the activities that most of the world isn't focusing on, that I know actually really works, because I've spent more than 6 figures on my business in itself, just flying to events around the world and putting money down on ads and experimenting with softwares and tools and plugins and programs and like I've done it all, dude. Like, as what I consider to be like a lot of the core things I've tried, and so I have a lot of feedback and analytics and data. I mean, we've got data on over 50 million unique views, a million people around the world on like what they're looking for when it comes to inspiration. So, you know, I have a lot to measure on. I've got a lot to share. I know a lot of the tools, the resources. I've been using a lot of them myself, and I can tell you from experience what impact that's going to have and if it's going to be effective for your business or not. I help people to customize a game plan and a strategy that's just for them, not a broad, general whatever. It's like very dialed into what their values are and what their vision is, and I help them to really create a game plan that shortens a curve.
Sure.
You know, instead of taking 5, 6, 7 years, it'll take like, you know, a year or two.
Sure.
You know, so yeah, man, you know, I've walked the path. It's like walking into a room, you know, with no lights on when you're trying to find your way and turning your iPhone on. It's like most people don't even have that on. They're walking into all sorts of things in the dark. So I help people to have the clarity and the sight and the vision to step into the ultimate version of themselves. So that's and with that, when you become that, you also are able to give more, right?
Right. And if they can even get a little bit of that energy, that Joel Brown passion in them, I'm sure they're going to do a lot even better, you know, with their business. And so I think that's only in Australia, right?
Australia and New Zealand, and it's all going down in May and June. Make sure you go to iamjoelbrown.com/millions dash online. Okay. Millions dash online.
Millions dash online. We're gonna
or you can just go to go to I am Joel Brown on Instagram, and you'll see there. It's in my bio link. It'll be up there.
Okay, it's a good way to kind of follow you where you travel and socially stalk you as well.
Follow me. Yeah, I'm on Insta story all the time. I'm doing Insta lives.
Yeah.
I'm bringing people on like Preston, Lexi, and like people I hang out with and get mentored by, and getting them to jam out on my lives and stories too. So you get a lot of value from it.
That's awesome, man. So dude, last question for Mr. Joel Brown. The show itself, it's called The Inner Changemaker. And so what comes to your mind when you think of the word changemaker?
It goes back to leadership, brother. It goes back to having the courage to live in your vision, to be unapologetic about how you show up because you believe that much that it's your calling, that it's your heart's mission, and that you're guided by the compass of your vision and your values to really move the needle in this world. And that's a change maker.
Joel Brown, man, I love it so much. This is one of the best interviews that we've ever done. And, you know, I appreciate you for sharing your stories, the 4 dimensions, and helping us get just a little bit smarter. Before we hop off, I know you have kind of like a question that asks people for 30 seconds. Doesn't need to be 30 seconds, but do you have any last words that you would love to tell change makers that are watching and listening to this?
Right. Commit to you. Don't commit to you because somebody else said do this or do that. Yeah. Commit to you and your dreams and your vision and the gift that's been blessed upon you. Because if you don't do it, then who is? Right? And you have that responsibility as a human being, as an intelligently designed human, to show up in the world at your highest potential. And so commit to that. Commit to your highest potential, because the world needs more people that commit to their highest potential. That's how we innovate. That's how we become change makers. That's how we really affect the world in such a positive way.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is Mr. Joel Brown. Make sure to follow him, addictedtosuccess.com and iamjoelbrown.com. Joel, it's been amazing having you on, man. Thank you so much, and can't wait to do this again.
Thanks a million, brother. I appreciate you. Big love.